Oh my God, 17,000 people saw it.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Because I put it on Twitter, you know.
Oh yeah,
you. Yeah, I put it all over the place. So it hit. It really did hit. So.
Yeah, because like you said, people want to see.
And now that we've got the app, they're
Are they downloading too?
Yeah, they're downloading the app, and they don't have to look for us all over the place. So we're talking about police.
Well, you was police, our own police, local contract.
Okay, police contract.
Police contract. Then we could talk. That leads into about the Harvard article.
Police contract, Moval.
Again, it talks. Yeah, it talks about.
Okay, here we go. Get ready. Get ready. Here we go. Another week. It's Thursday. Today is the 21st, I believe.
Oh, yeah. No, the 20th.
Today's the 20th. Why am I a day ahead? I don't understand why.
Oh, because you're ready to do it.
Yeah, I'm just in a hurry. Donovan, Saadiq, Mr. Moreno Valley, Daryl, Terrell. This is the Hot Seat Radio Show. We want to thank you guys. Last week, we put up a raw video of us doing the radio show last week, and we have gotten over 17,000 hits. People are looking at it. Of course, my good buddy Edo Benbizi and the Highland Fairview Edoites are looking at it as well. And they're asking themselves, how does he do it? How does he do it? It's not about what I do. It's what I say and how I do it. But talking to Mr. Moreno Valley, hey, Daryl, it's another week. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I was just sitting here thinking about what you were just saying a few minutes ago about doing the show. That reminds me, we were sitting here earlier, had a discussion about how if you were in a third world country that's oppressed by the government, there'd be somebody like us in some room or something to get the message out, like you were saying, like radio, what is it called?
Free Radio, Radio America.
Yeah, because that's what democracy is all about, getting information out to people, because that's what in those kind of countries, the government oppress people and limit you from internet. They eliminate you for any information, knowledge, because knowledge is power. And that's a good thing you're doing, because it's in this community we only have the Press Enterprise, LA,
and 3 minutes, or is it 2 minutes now at City Council?
Yeah, 2 minutes is not enough to say anything. So you might as well just go on to Facebook and do your own thing.
Do your own thing as well. Yeah, and this is why I started that, to give everybody a voice to say what they've got to say.
Yeah.
But before we get started, I want to Tay Wilder. She's a co-host on the show. Her son graduated today.
Oh, awesome!
18, and he's out the box. She stopped crying, and I know she's listening to the show right now.
Cool.
She's going out to dinner. Congratulations, Brandon! Long time coming. She just has Dominic to go, and hey, she'll be free soon enough. So for all those people who had graduates today and this year, good luck, and hope they continue on their education, because as Daryl Terrell always says, education is the key, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a college degree. It could be a technical certificate.
And that's the same thing. I admire people like Tay Wilder and a lot of other parents out there that travel these roads, go to work every day and come home tired, but they put the effort in to make sure the kid get a decent education and
a good meal and a good home.
And my hat goes out to her and all the parents out there for their kids that's walking that out, because it's not a easy path to travel.
Right.
It takes a lot of studying, a lot of trials and tribulations, and when you're in school. And congratulations to her child, and continue much success for him.
Absolutely. So this week, again, we had 17,000 hits. Thanks everybody for doing that. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but in particular, Daryl, you want to talk about there was an incident in Moreno Valley that was in the Press Enterprise, but the incident happened a few months ago, whatever.
Yes.
And it has to deal with our police department. So
yes.
Go ahead and get into that.
It goes down to the fact, because what I was reading in the Press Enterprise, it talks about a man who was shot at 13 times by the Riverside County Sheriff's Deputy in Moreno Valley last year, and is suing the county, claiming that the deputy used excessive force, lied on his report on the incident, and was not properly held accountable. But see, my whole thing about this is it goes to the thing that they're suing the county. They're not suing Moreno Valley. So what I'm reading from this article is it was, because we are a contract city, so when you're a contract city, you are limited from being sued.
Liabilities.
Because the liability itself will bankrupt the city.
One lawsuit.
Yeah, because I was reading further on, and as I was mentioning to Donovan, I was reading something else too. Is that the county is trying to limit those kind of lawsuits because they could bankrupt local government.
Right, municipalities.
Yeah, because the fact that you are paying out for whatever you're paying out to sell them, but if you're a city like ours that have limited resources, and because Sacramento's taking our money too, and they're using us as an ATM machine, so when you get, thank God we don't have it, then some people will say, well, we should have it because we have control over costs. But yeah, what costs are you talking about control? And you're talking about basically the biggest part of your budget is your
resource.
Yeah, your
defense.
Defense, and you're talking about labor costs. Labor costs is the biggest bit,
and it's really the overtime.
Yeah, exactly. And if you try to take this on, you're talking about equipment, you're talking about outside, you're talking about helicopters and things like that. That adds up.
It adds up.
And so if you have somebody who's going to sue because of something like that, that could bankrupt your entire city.
Well, I mean, can I ask you a question in regards to that? According to the Edoites and Edo Ben-Bizi himself, we are building a project that's going to bring $3 billion in annual revenue to the city of Moreno Valley in 25 years once it gets started. So we have all the money in the world. $3 billion in a city that's not even 1 million people.
Well, that's future speculation on that because we haven't seen any money yet. Because, okay, I give it to you that you have lawsuits out there, and nothing has happened yet. But we're talking about the here and now, not what's happening 25 years from now. We're talking about here and now where you need the revenue right now to pay for your police force, and we can't wait 20 or 30 years from now for that to happen. I mean, you got to do it. You got to supply your officers in your department with the
equipment they need
for
their jobs,
the resources.
Right.
And so, what we are talking about is making sure that we give our officers what they need so they can protect our community. Because there's people out there right now that says our streets are meaner because of AB 109 and Prop 47. It has made our community less safer because of the fact of we letting these criminals that should be spending time in state prison to serve their time in county jail, which they don't have the resources. And also you bring a lot of other problems when you have medical care and health and these other things that it's making it not feasible for counties to take that burden.
Okay.
So that's some of the things we have to look at because that's what state government does. They pass down unfunded mandates. They expect cities and counties to pay for it with their limited resources. And so when it's time to balance the budget or anything, they raid our coffers. And they take the money back to Sacramento, give us a little piece of it, then put a lot of strings attached to a lot of the programs at the local level, which we know best how to do.
Now, have you heard anything about our city addressing the upcoming gas tax? I mean, they're squeezing us to where it's almost like looking at a quarter. They're squeezing us so tight that you can punch a booger out of George Washington's nose.
Well, I haven't heard anything when it comes to the gas tax, because the main thing I think the city wanted to do with this gas tax, they supported is because of local infrastructure projects. And so when you say local, but you have to think we're talking about the Inland Empire. Most of the benefits are going to go to people in LA, Northern California,
right?
Because when they try to do that train or that bullet train,
that Dianne Feinstein's husband got the contract for, which isn't a conflict of interest, but you're a senator, but your husband got the contract. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but see that whole thing is going to benefit because if you notice, the train is going to go from Los Angeles to up north. But what about down here to the IE? It seems like we always have been the redhead stepchild when it comes to anything in this, and that's why we as a community has to stand up and not take it anymore. And some people say, well, standing up, what you do, you got to get more actively involved. And this gas tax is going to hit everybody, even the person who's working at Walmart or who's working at McDonald's or the low wage jobs with no economic mobility. That's where it's going to hit. It's going to hit a lot of you guys who are traveling to LA, who are listening to the show right now, coming back, and you stuck behind a truck or some cars, wondering, my God, why are they going after my pocket?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, are they looking at, is the money being spent as is currently? Is the money is not being transferred to other different funds to be loaned out without paying that fund back at the state government level? So that's some of the things we need to think about, because when people say, well, because every year you notice there's a prop on there about spending the money directly, specifically for
what it's allotted for.
Yeah, what it's allotted for. But now I see there's provisions in there that's spent for parks.
Right.
Well, I don't think gas tax money should be going to parks. Personally, I think it should go for
roads.
Go for roads.
Right.
Yes. So my thing has always been that we have to do better when it comes to holding people accountable. When you're going to say the money's going to be spent, it has to go. You can't just have a loophole that says I could borrow the money and pay it back at some future time. Instead of that money should be what it's set out for. It's like when you locally, if we have a measure, and that measure requires you to have, it's for instance like the utility tax. I know that's a heartburn for a lot of people, but the utility tax was a general tax. But the emphasis was on public safety. But you got to think about how big our budget for public safety is. It's huge. It's super majority of the entire budget. But then you got cities that's going to public safety tax that's specifically going to public safety. It cannot be borrowed. It cannot be spent other for public safety purposes. But they have it worded enough so that money could go directly to put officers on the street or firefighters, whatever. But general purpose tax is easy to pass because it only requires you a majority, and it can be spent for anything.
Sure, and that's the problem Moreno Valley has. And why do you think our city council members are so against putting in these special restrictions in regards to where the funds go?
Well, again, because when they drafted that for the utility tax again, it was basically a general purpose tax. But I can remember back in 1996 when I was kind of awake in politics. It's the fact that they said if we did not pass that tax, our city was going to go bankrupt.
We should have done. We should not have passed that tax.
And so after the election, I can remember this. I can remember the headlines, and I can remember all the people that were for the utility tax and the ones who were against it. And all of a sudden, they said they had a $13.7 million windfall, and people went absolutely crazy. They said, "Wait a minute! I thought you said if we wasn't gonna pass this, we were gonna go broke." But here you are. Then they tried. I remember one of the council meetings. They came back with some figures of savings and things like that. But I looked at the reserves. Reserves, we have a lot of money in the reserves. So for me, it made me more skeptical.
Right. And why do we have such money in the reserves?
Well, in case for rainy days. When I mean rainy days, it's like, for instance, when we hit the Great Recession, something like that, where we had to stay afloat.
But they still cut back all these resources during the recession. So what's the point of having a reserve like that if you're going to cut staff and we still haven't recovered from the staff cutting?
Well, yeah, and see, that's the thing about when you pay your taxes, you should get something in return. Not the fact that they keep taking money out of your pocket and you get less and less and less services, or in your instance, being in Edgemont, where you get less infrastructure improvements.
We get no services.
Well, there you go.
No services.
So that's why people have to be mindful of what goes on. That's what got me involved in attending council meetings and talking to the old timers, I call them, the wise men, the people like the Pete Bleckers, the Ray Hossmans, George Abenese. These names people probably don't know who they are, but those were the people that were, I would call them mentors that I first opened my eyes to politics. Okay. And they showed me how to look at figures and how to question. You know, they had different methods of questioning, and I had my method, but we both had the same thing. It opened my minds to a lot of things. I started questioning their finances. When we had surpluses, you said, well, we really don't have a surplus. I said, well, you did, because at the end of the year, you had a surplus, but since you have money coming in and operating transfers in and out, that money disappeared. But you had one, but it's not my fault that you dedicated money for other things.
Let me ask you this. I know we're going off subject here, but it's pretty much on the same subject. Okay, we have we have 5 council members. One idiot that calls himself mayor, and we have 1 criminal that calls herself Victoria Baca. Here's my question: our diff fees always come at the end. Would you be for the diff fees on the front? Now you have 2 council members there that seem to be level-headed in the middle. In my opinion, they go along to get along, and I'm not singling anybody out, but I know you can't be confrontational on every issue unless it was, Donovan Saadiq up there. But why aren't Councilman Gaiba and Marquez not advocating for legislation to change those diff fees? We know that that's part of the problem.
Well, see,
if Ito had to pay his money up front, then we know that he's going to do his project. And by having the diff fees at the rear, where's the money? Look at our city. Look where we're at.
Well, again, you have to advocate. If that's what you believe, you have to advocate it and put a reasonable, what we call a case for why you should do it. The pros and the cons about it. Even if they couldn't do it, they do a study session on that to give people, the regular layman's people out there who work every day, to have them to understand why we have the diff fees and why are they paid at the end instead of at the beginning. And some people will say you're paying at the end. This is to generate economic activity.
Okay, right there. Stop right there. Has it worked?
Well, the case is still out on that.
How's it? We've been doing that for over 10 years now. How is the case out?
Well,
if you ask me, I think it's a failure.
Well, I will say that we do have business coming in.
Warehousing.
Well,
look at our infrastructure.
I see the infrastructure, but see, that's the thing about it, because if you let something go on for a long period of time, you still have to reevaluate it.
Okay, it's been 10 years where there's a brand new warehouse being built right there in Alessandro, right next to our city hall. They've now encased the city hall around warehouses because we're a warehouse city. It's been 10 years investing in this. Our roads are crumbling. Our infrastructure is crumbling.
I would agree.
Highland Fairview is not paying their bills in regards to their legal fees, which is we have to front the money for him, and he's piecemealing doing this. But at the same time, he doesn't have $100,000 to give to the city, but he has $100,000 to give to a 22-year-old kid that can't wipe his ass. I can go on and on and on and on. So after 10 years of evaluating, I'm going to ask you this, Daryl. And me and you are friends, but we don't have the same opinions on everything. After 10 years, how much more evaluation do you need?
Well, here's the question, what you just asked me. It's the fact that we haven't had. I always look at the reports. If we had a reporter, has it been working? See, that's the thing the public, like yourself or anybody, should raise, or the council members. Okay, you had this thing going for 10 years. Okay, show us what are the results for what you have done in 10 years. 10 years. Okay, but for me to say it hasn't been working, but I don't have the data to figure. I can see, like you're saying, the crumbling streets. I can see the infrastructure crumbling, but that's I can see that.
Right.
But I don't know as far as activity. See, that's something that Councilman Gaiba and Councilman Marquez should demand, that there should be a report on by lowering the diff fees, has it worked? Bring in the results so people can see. Because I can't answer the question, has it worked or not?
You haven't seen the books, right?
I haven't seen it. But that's the thing about what we do at the city, though. Here's what happens at the city. You pass a ordinance or you pass a new program, but I haven't seen any follow-ups. What are the results of this policy? Is it working?
Well, to me, it's more like propaganda. You just say it, and then you don't do anything.
Well, that's the problem, because propaganda don't get you anywhere. It just makes you feel good for a second.
Well, it makes you feel good for a second. For them, it keeps them in office and keeps the heat off their ass.
Well, that's why you have to inform and you have to keep people knowledgeable. Because if you don't, then you have people feeling that, well, like we were talked about earlier. And I see that's one of my things, though, is there's a lot of things that I've seen that we passed, but we haven't did any follow-ups. Are we measuring results? I think the problem in this community is we don't measure performance. Tangible. It's like I was saying, being on the Riverside County Behavioral Health Commission. One of the things we do is we have a program. It's called Program Improvement Plan.
Okay.
And basically, if there's a problem out there, we get data, then we tackle the problem, then we measure, is it working? If it's not, then we make adjustments to make it so it can
Okay.
work.
Now, all those numbers and stuff. I mean, that sounds great in theory, and it probably works in reality. But let's deal with the reality in Moreno Valley. You have 2 council members up there. Dave Marquez was recently elected.
Oh, yeah.
Why are not these council members being more proactive in looking at the books and finding out what the hell is going on, and why this stuff is not?
Well, again,
because my reality is my perception.
Well, yeah, but see, again, you again have to look at the individual person.
Okay.
It's the individual person that makes, like we talked about last week. It's the individual person that makes that.
Okay. So
if it was me, I would ask for it.
Right.
Because I'm the type of person that would ask for things.
Right. But what I'm saying is, they're up there. They're getting along to get along.
Well, it shouldn't happen.
I don't see any. I never hear Moreno Valley in the newspapers other than when Ito doesn't want to pay his fees or something going on with Highland Fairview, or corruption at the city hall. We need leaders up there, and I'm not singling out any particular leader, that are going to make waves and change our perception of this city by doing instead of talking.
Well, it has to
20,000 jobs were promised. Why isn't Mr. Marquez, idiot Creveras, idiot Gutierrez, criminal Baca, and Gaiba not showing the numbers of where we're going to get these 20,000 jobs?
Well, it has to be about accountability. Again, if a person makes a statement, you hold them accountable. And how do you hold them accountable? You have measurements. Now, if you want to develop a piece of land, you want to make it the biggest industrial park in the world or whatever, then you got to have some performance measurements. You got to have some points before you say
Well, I understand that, and you said that. I'm not like indicting you. I'm just trying to get.
No, I understand.
With people, we can't be too technical. That's one thing I learned in the military. You can't be too technical. You got to dumb it down to the lowest denominator. 20,000 jobs have been promised. Highland Fairview has never explained who those 20,000 jobs are going to be. 25 years out, how can you promise 20,000 jobs? I don't know. The city council is sitting on its hands. They're not holding this developer accountable for his incentives.
The only thing I can say about the 20,000 jobs, let's say, is the fact if you're mentioning, because we don't know what type of business will be coming in. It's going to be industrial, but the warehousing or whatever they want to call it. I could think for the first part, if you are going to have jobs coming in, we're looking at temporary jobs. We're talking about the person who's going to build the building. So we are talking about construction, and we're talking about skilled labor, hopefully.
Okay, so you're saying you got to see the numbers, whatever. You have a man that was given all this money. Money came out of my neighborhood to fund his property. Skechers Phase 2 and 3 is not complete. Aquabella, and I'm going to keep saying this over and over.
I got you.
It doesn't take a rocket. I don't need to see the books to see that it's not working.
Well, that's what we're talking about again. When you're talking again about passing the WLC, and you're saying Phase 2, Phase 3 of Skechers. Well, again, let's look at it from the outside. Okay. Okay, look at the economy, per se.
Okay.
Was the economy rolling, or was it conducive enough for something like that to be built? Okay,
Actually, it was.
Okay, now saying that they should have said, okay, you got to do Skechers 2 and 3 before you could do this other thing.
Right.
That's how it should have been.
But that's what I'm saying. You've got Dave Marquez, who's newly elected. He knows these issues. Why isn't he bringing things like that up?
Yeah.
To say, hey, look, I'm here. I'm the new kid on the block, but I'm the new kid on the seat, but I'm not a new kid in the city. What are you going to do, Mr. Benbizi, about 2 and 3?
Well,
in 25 years, we're not talking about Skechers.
Yeah.
We're not talking about WLC. We're talking about Skechers.
Yeah.
Okay, 25 years. In the interim, when are you going to complete 2 and 3? Skechers.
Well, again, you just heard what you just said. You just said you would be questioning and asking, I'm the new kid on the block. But again, it's the person who's in the seat. Again, that's that's the way you would have done it.
Okay,
right?
so why are we electing leaders that are not going to shake up the establishment and look at our interests and ask these questions that we need to ask? Five councilmen up there, and nobody asked these questions.
Well, I agree with you. You should have people that's going to ask the tough question and say, hey, I mean, the reality is, okay, you got, again, 2, 3, okay, Mr. Benzivi, what's going on with 2 and 3?
No, the question is not what's going on. When are you starting?
Well,
because we gave you the money, you did phase 1, you don't start a project and not finish it. So it isn't about what's going on. When are you finishing this project?
Well, you got a
period.
Yeah, a status report.
Exactly.
Well, it's no.
And if you're not going to do what you're going to do until you do what you're going to do, we're going to put WLC on hold.
I could agree with that. But I could agree with that if they, like, again, if you had city council members there that was thinking like that. That's the whole point. Then why are we putting people in there? But it's the people in the community that put them there.
Is it the people in the community, or is it the very same developer that is buying our elections? And
well, it's the one who's spending the money to get those big signs.
Oh, so it's the very developer that's causing the very problem.
Well, he should be supporting more people who's going to stand up for themselves. That's my opinion.
Yeah, he should.
But it's not going to happen.
Right.
Because if you have a strong leader there that's going to hold people accountable,
like
developers.
No. And I'm not trying to cut you off. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Everybody understands what you're saying. We know what we should have.
Yeah.
But one of the things is, what I'm trying to say basically is, all these issues do not go away because certain people are going to be silent on it. If you're up there, I don't care how you were elected. Yeah. If you're going to be up there and be silent, I'm going to call you out every chance I get.
You should.
So,
well, that's the thing about it. But again, it's the person.
Right.
No, not everybody is like you, though.
Right. No, I understand that. But who's suffering? The
city we suffering.
The city as a whole.
Yeah, we all suffering
right.
in the city. And I totally agree with you.
Right.
But until you get people that it's not it makes me feel good type of elected official and saying, you know what? You got to start questioning.
So basically, we're electing the same people over and over again, but with different faces.
I would agree. Because you got to rattle the cages, but not only rattle the cages, but produce results when you rattle the cages.
Okay,
there's not a lot of we're doing a lot of talking, but at the same time we're getting results from it.
Absolutely.
We're getting status reports. We're questioning the people who want to invest in our community and say, you want to do this, okay? When are you going to do it?
No, not when you're going to do it. When can you start?
Yeah, when can you start? But like I said, that's how we.
Yeah,
how we are.
We think
different.
Okay, real quick in local news, Ontario Airport recently. Those are people that don't understand. Ontario Airport used to be under the premise of San Bernardino County, and in the 90s, somewhere they gave the airport to the LAX enterprise of airports, and that is LAX itself, John Wayne Airport, Burbank Airport. And Long Beach, and Ontario was a part of that. We recently got that back because what was happening is in the 90s, that was a very booming airport with a lot of flights going a lot of places. But you look at the business model of what LA did, they drove traffic to LAX by making the airline fees higher in Ontario, which would increase the prices. And of course, that's why usually on average there's a $100 difference between a ticket bought in LAX versus Ontario in difference, and so that for an additional $100, I would rather drive to LAX for that cheaper flight.
Yeah.
But recently, Frontier Airlines started flights back out of Ontario, and what's happening is now that Inland Empire now has control of that airport like it should have all along, and never gave that up. You've got almost 1 million people out in the Inland Empire. And that would be a good outlet instead of going all the way to LAX or San Diego to get a flight, John Wayne, whatever, the traffic. So they have flights going on, Frontier Airlines out there, and they negotiate their gate fees. They're going to be flying into Colorado, Denver, of course, Chicago, and Austin, Texas. So that's a good start with the first 3 flights. Hopefully they're going to be expanding that as the time comes on. And Ontario Airport will be renegotiating their gate fees with the airlines to give us more flights and more options. So everybody stay on your local politicians, your assemblymen, whatever, people that are over that project, because it doesn't make any sense that we cannot utilize an airport that is, 25 minutes away.
Yeah.
We have to go all the way to LAX just to save $100. And then when you go through LAX, you're in a major airport conglomerate when we have an airport that we can utilize just right down the street.
Well, yeah, I noticed that too because the airline I was thinking about going, you have to. It is $100 difference. You go to LAX, but with the thing about fighting traffic and everything else.
Traffic and and that's always been a big problem, which is what this was supposed to be an outlet airport. You got almost 1 million people out here, so I think that's a smart idea. And so right now, there was a mistake made. They corrected the mistake, and now they are moving forward because they evaluated and said, wait a minute, we're losing gates, we're losing business, because the airports operate like cities. The airport director said, wait a minute, this is not working for us because we're losing money, and guess who's making all the money? LAX in general. Taxes go there when the taxes should be going into your neighborhood. Also today, O.J. Simpson was given parole for a robbery he did. He spent almost 9 years in jail. Daryl, what's your take on it?
Well, he served. He followed, according to what I read or what I saw, that he followed the guidelines of
model prisoner
for the parole guidelines. So they say, hey, well, you could go.
People that did a crime like that would have only served maybe 3 years at the most. Do you think that he was made to do the maximum minimum because of the
I think it has
trial?
I think it had a lot to do with it. I'm not. It don't take a rocket scientist. It seems like it had a lot to do why he had to serve
the
like
maximum minimum.
30 years in prison.
Yeah,
for
a third
like
of 30 years, which is a lot of time. And he's almost 70 years old, so why not let him out and let him go live his life? Also, George Price, former council person and longtime city employee, he is on the mend, and he's still laid up with ice packs. George, I know you're probably listening to the show every now and then. Get better, and please stay active, and we'll see you on the golf court. And recently, that just came in, the Supreme Court has ordered and approved the strict travel ban by President Trump. And so I guess, Supreme Court has said that's the law, that's the ultimate law of the land, and they approved the strict travel ban as it is written in its second connotation. Real quick, local resident Aja Smith, she's running for Congress. Please, everybody, go to www.ajaforcongress.com, and what we need you to do, we need you to make a donation, and a donation of no more than $27. But, let's round it up. Let's make it an even 30. She needs this so that she can run in the congressional elections that are going to be coming up in 2 years. And in 2 years, everybody that's listening to this show right now, you're going to have a lot of elections going to be coming down the pipe. Local elections. We were going to have District 4 again is coming up for re-election. District 2 is coming up for re-election, and the mayor. So we're going to have 3 major elections. And if you guys do not listen to this show or learn anything, local elections matter.
Oh, it does.
And you can see what local elections has done to our city. And that's why you have to be informed in what we're doing.
Yeah. Also, I saw something on the P website. Is I give props to the city for this. It's the new Moreno Valley Playground for disabled kids.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's I give you
awesome.
a hat goes off to you, thumbs goes up that you're looking after our kids so they can fit right in and be able to have fun,
to enjoy like other kids.
And
absolutely.
My thumbs go out to the Parks and Recs department for that.
Right, absolutely. So, there are some things that the city, the city doesn't always do everything wrong. There are some things the city does right. But the path that I believe that we're on is a wrong path. It needs to be. Would everybody agree with me in that we need no more warehouses? There's another warehouse being built on Alessandro.
Yeah, we don't need no more warehouses.
Okay, 5 years ago, there's a warehouse on the corner of Alessandro and Ellsworth on the way to the base. It's still unoccupied. They will not come. Do not build it. They're not going to come because a lot now, and I know some people are saying, well, Donovan, if you know so much about logistics, you know that Barnes & Noble and all these big companies are getting rid of their brick stores. So they're going to need storage for their goods to go out. We are in a prime location to do that. I am not disagreeing with that aspect at all. But do those kind of jobs create a career or something that people can live off of? That is my question to anybody listening.
Well, also I would have to chime in because it seems like we do a lot of storing. We don't do a lot of making. We don't do a lot of
and that's wasted land to me.
Yeah, advanced manufacturing. I mean, we continue to bring in these facilities. We don't raise our aspirations for anything other than warehouses. And so people, they are needed in a community. Yes, there's a right place to put them, and people do need jobs. But the point is, we got to start raising our aspirations.
You know, let me chime in here.
Okay.
You know, when everybody says jobs, you know, let me ask you and anybody else listening, do you want just any kind of job?
No.
You want a job, a career. Nobody wants jobs.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, nobody really wants a job. And nobody wants to work 2 and 3 jobs. Because for a while, you were working 2 jobs for a while.
Oh, yeah, sure was.
And when I was in the military, I worked always a second job.
Yeah, you need, like you said, a career path that has economic mobility.
Right.
And see, a lot of these jobs we have in our community are low paying.
They're just jobs.
They're just jobs. Just to get you the paycheck to paycheck, or get you away from having your water shut off or your utility shut off.
Right, cable shut off, right.
Yeah, but there's no, other than what the city needs is revenue. That's one argument of the issue. But the other is the human need again. You can't live the American dream in a town where you don't have career employment where there's economic mobility.
Right.
Because the only way you're going to get out of poverty, either one, you got to have an education team, or you got to have specialized training. Again, that's the path out of poverty. But if you continue to bring in employment, which keeps people in poverty.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but then again, I can. Chris Baca brings up good points. You're seeing massive check cashing places springing up all over the place, 99-cent stores springing up all over the place, to which his sister is part of the problem in that happening. And another question I have real quick, has anybody seen local city vandalizer Louise, the clown Palomares? Nobody's seen her.
But again, you remember you were saying what Chris Baca just said?
Yeah. But with Chris Baca, what he's saying is, when you bring in these things, there's, the warehouses, you're bringing them in, but is Amazon hiring anybody directly? Very rarely, if you can make the thing. It's summertime. There are so many people unemployed right now, and they say Moreno Valley's actual employment level is at probably around 16% right now. 16% in Moreno Valley alone. But we have all these staffing agencies who are not giving up the benefits, who are taking, they're just making people enough just to survive.
Well, that comes in again when you have a more active council members that will fight to prevent these kind of things to continue to happen, and to have some kind of influence over that.
I challenge the Edowitz, and I'm going to continue to challenge you. We've been doing this for 10 years. Warehouses are all over the city that are looking for employees. Amazon's looking for employees, and they're grinding them to the ground. Yeah. If this is such a great idea, why are people in this city, why are we at 16% unemployment? But we keep doing it. We keep doing it. The first thing to stop digging, to dig yourself out of a hole, is to stop digging.
Well, at the same time, as you explained before, you're saying we have these warehouses. And again, my thing has always been, why are we not raising the aspirations? I remember a couple of years ago, Jesse Molina, the council member, was talking about these warehouses and things. And I said, why do we have to settle being a warehouse capital of Riverside County? Why we can't think of something higher?
But last week, didn't you say these people come in, these developers come in, look at our demographics, and they say, "Oh, a bunch of Mexicans will be warehouses."
But see, again, if you see developers coming in, so if you have a more active council member, you say, "Hey, I have something we could work together on, so you could bring in better businesses, other than warehouses, like advanced manufacturing."
Right. No, and Daryl, nobody disagrees with you of what a councilman should do.
Yeah.
Nobody disagrees with that.
But why they're not doing it?
We need to talk about, and this is my opinion.
I got you.
Everybody knows what the perfect president's supposed to be, what the perfect congressman, and what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
We got to deal with the reality of what we have.
Well, people have to make up in their mind, do you want lower the bar versus high aspirations?
And right now, we've lowered the bar.
Well, yeah. And that's my whole thing that makes me frustrated because we don't raise the bar in this town. We settle because people are so complacent of what's going on in their communities. Like they see warehouses, so they beat down so bad that they don't think we could do better.
You know,
and that will frustrate me.
Right. Okay, we're about to go into the month of August, and some of the very same people that supported the WLC are running around here upset because their children have no programs to go to, or the programs are so expensive that they can't partake in those programs, and they are so upset. And I'm you know, me personally, I'm looking at them like, well, you're the one that wanted warehouses here, so what are you complaining about? This is what you asked for. When you bring in warehouses in your city and 99-cent stores and check cashing places and all these things, you expect a Boys and Girls Club, an Epic Center here, and it doesn't. The numbers do not show the revenue that comes in from that. And then you got a developer who won't even pay his legal fees, simple stuff, to keep the city out of debt or whatever. Why are we? You know, I mean.
Well, that's the thing again, because like you were saying, that people want all these warehouses, and I see it like you said. Go drive down Alexandria Boulevard or by City Hall. It's not what I ever expected this town to be like, because again, we had the potential, and I still think we do, to be epic when you have entertainment. Because a long time ago, people were talking about arts and entertainment in this town, and now people are not talking about it because all they see is warehouses everywhere. And the thing is, people, that's again, we send the bar too low. We got to set it higher. And
how do we do that?
How you got to start electing people that have vision, not only to talk, but also some concrete plans that can make it happen. That's how I look at it. The thing is, we can want people want to have all these things, like you said, the 99 stores and all this stuff that comes into our community. They come in because the demographics supports that.
So you're saying a high Hispanic population and a fairly decent black population only warrants warehouses, 99-cent stores, and poverty?
No, I will say we're looking at people that, in general, don't have a higher education attainment levels. We're looking at people who don't have specialized training for these jobs. Because I don't break it down as class or race, but I break it down more as what skill levels, specialized skill levels.
You have a brand new councilman. You got councilmen that ran on, I will fight for you. Your thing is this important. Blah, 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 blah. What are they doing to bring? See, like me, if I'm saying jobs, I'm saying we can bring high-tech jobs here.
Yeah,
we can do it.
That's raising expectations. That's raising aspirations. 5
council members, and all they could bring here is warehouses?
Well, again, it's who you
elect. A city
elect.
manager that only an outreach director for economics or jobs, Mr. Lee, and he's a nice man or whatever. All you're bringing to this city is warehouses?
That's why we said we could do better. I always think we could do better because the fact, if we don't have the high the education attainment levels, like say for college or whatever, but that if people see that in itself could be expensive. But again, like I said before, if we could bring in the specialized training. Again, like you're saying, Mr. Bazzi, we should build the tech center or whatever. But we have Moreno Valley College over there that we could be partnering up right now, and we could be laying the foundation to bring in those high tech jobs in this community, because they'll look at our demographics and they'll say, you know what? Guess what? You guys don't have the education levels. You don't have the specialized training. But you know what you guys are doing? You guys are creating this hybrid training apprenticeship program. And you also want to share in the cost. Also, you want to share in the cost, expense, and you have partners that want to work together to make it happen. And so, if you are a high tech, like you want to come in, then I'd be more inclined to come in, because at least I see you got some kind of innovative training program that's gonna, when I come in, it's gonna. I would have the human what do you call it? Element, resource there to fill those jobs. And then they come from the community because your city invests in training.
Okay.
But they haven't. They haven't so far.
Well, that's a good topic. Those of you listening, do you guys agree? I mean, Daryl always has Daryl always has great ideas. I mean, the Hire Moval program, that was him. That's Daryl Terrell, Mr. Moreno Valley. it's a deep problem, and you know, basically what I'm getting from Daryl is basically what you're saying, Daryl, is, you know, you're giving us this utopian idea of how it's supposed to be. You're giving us the blueprint, and I understand that, but we're dealing with what we've got to do now, and
but see, that's what I'm saying, because you know, it works in other cities. It works in other communities just like ours.
So so in the next hour, you don't want to cut you off. We're going to come right back, but we've got less than a minute to go. We got to pay some bills here. But in the next hour, I'm going to ask you, how do we go about doing that and making this stuff reality? Stop saying about what we should do, and we start talking about things that we can do. Because that's the same thing that these idiots on the council are saying. Well, what we should be doing, no, we know what we should be doing. What are you doing to do it? And we're also going to talk about the uplifting congressional elections and other things that are happening. This is the Hot Seat Radio Show. Mr. Moreno Valley, Daryl, Terrell, Donovan, Saadiq. We will